Very good morning, student. Welcome to this class, and today we are going to start with the very first chapter of class 8 history, that is how, when, and where. And let me give you a brief introduction in order to tell you what we are going to learn.
Students, history is about finding out how things were in the past and how things have changed. Earlier history was synonymous with dates. The very chapter is all about dates and how important dates are. When it comes to studying history, it gives students a brief idea about earlier history and how they used to specify dates according to their respective events. Should go through these videos I have sent you for better understanding. So we were talking about history. So history is all about changes that occur over time. It is about the finding out of how things were in the past and how things have changed in present. As soon as we compare the past with the present, we refer to time. We talk of before and after. If someone asks you when people begin to drink tea or coffee, you would fail to answer this question. It is because people did not drinking tea on a fine day. They developed the taste of for it over time. Thus, you can also only refers to time span of time, approximate period over which particular changes become visible. Still, we have enough reason why we associate history with a string of dates. There was a time when history was an account of battles and big events. It was about rulers and their policies. Historian wrote about the years when a king was crowned, the year he married, the year he fought a particular battle, etc. For such events, specific dates were fixed, and these dates were very important because it tells you about the importance of that event. If these dates were not registered or written anywhere else, we will be not able to find out whether the dates are important or not. So that's why actually writing about these dates or registering these dates, making record of these dates were way important in our history, and historians did their work fine. But this is not it's not important that history it always tells you the truth. Sometimes history manipulates the timelines, history manipulates the story behind it. So that's why not always the importance of a particular event tells you the importance of that date, but it gives you hints about the story. Now let's talk about how do we determine that a particular set of dates is important. For example, the date you were born is important for you, but not maybe important for me. For example, can you tell me the importance of 7th May? You might not, because for me it's important because it's my birthday, but for you it may be not that much important. The dates we select, the dates around which we compare our story of the past, are not important on their own. They become important because we focus on a particular set of events as important. Because according to us, that dates are important. That's why we consider that dates are important. That has nothing to do with the importance of others. If according to you the some particular date is important to you, for example the date you were born, the date your parents like married, for example, these dates are important for you, but these dates may be or may not be important for others. Moving away from British classification, historians have usually divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. We are actually living in a postmodern society, if you ask. One important source of Indian history is the official record of the British administration. The Britishers believed that the act of writing was important because to know about your past, to know about The future generation will know about their past and they'll learn from it, they'll get education from it, they'll get knowledge from it. It's very important. Every instruction, plan, policy, decision, agreement, and investigation had to be clearly written up. By the middle of the 19th century, along with the spread of printing, multiple copies of these records were printed as proceeding of each government department. The practice of serving also became common under the colonial administration. These records tell us what the official through what they were interested in and what they wished to present posterity. These records always help us understand what other people in the country felt and what lay behind their actions. As printing spread, newspapers were published and issued for debate in public. Leaders and reformers wrote to spread their idea, poets and novelists wrote to express their feelings. The histories written by British historian in India, the rule of each Governor General was important. These historians begin with the rule of first Governor General Warren Hastings and ended it with the last Viceroy Lord Mountbatten. James Mill was a Scottish economics and political philosopher. In 1817, he wrote a three-volume book, A History of British India. In this, he divided Indian history into three periods: Hindu, Muslim, and Britisher. He actually, what he did was very wrong because he actually given emphasis on the religion basis and he actually prioritized the Indian history on the basis of religion because that was bad. Because when you talk about Indian history, the Buddhism came from Indian history and the Jainism came from Indian history. So you can't tell that the first ancient time period was only Hinduism. So that was bad. So, but he did, eventually he did because nobody was able to stop him because he was like part of his job. He was doing just his job. Well, actually, we divide Indian history into different periods in others to capture the characteristic of a time in central features as they appear to us. So the term through we periodize, demarcate the difference between periods become important. Mill was of the opinion that all Asian societies were of lower level of civilization than Europe. According to his telling of history, before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim despots ruled the country. Religion, intolerance, and caste taboos dominated the social life of Indian people. British rule, as Mill thought, could civilize India. Now he basically said that Indians were uncivilized, so we are here to civilize Indians. And what they did, they colonized Indians, and they were justifying themselves by telling like whole country and whole world that we are here to civilize Indians. But they only focused on the religious perspective, but India was more than religion. So they were talking about that they're justifying their actions through these kind of judgmental statements. And the British were absolutely prejudiced in classifying the Indian history, so the British classification of Indian history cannot be justified. It is because a variety of faults existed simultaneously along with Hindus, Muslims in these periods. Apart from the British classification, historians have divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. This division too has problems. It is periodization that is borrowed from the West, where the modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces and modernity such as science, reasons, democracy, etc. Medieval was the term used to describe a society where these features of modern society did not exist. But the features of modern period were not visible in India. During the British rule, many historians therefore refers to this period as colonial. The British established their control over India and made it a colony. Colonization is a term that refers to a process which one country subjugated another and thus bring political, economical, and social and cultural changes. Historians use different sources in writing about last. to 50 years of Indian history, one important source is official records of the British administration. The British believed that the act of writing was important. Easy instruction plan policies, etc., had to be clearly written up. The British also felt that all important documents and letters needed to be clarified or carefully presented or preserved. So they set up record rooms attached to all administrative institutions. Specialized institutions like archives and museums were also set up to preserve important records. So basically, in order to tell the future generation about the achievements of Britishers and British policies, they started establishing archives and museums just to tell their future generation that these things these measures we took in order to develop or colonize India. And the practice of surveying also became common under the colonial administration. By the early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to the map the entire country. In villages, revenue surveys were conducted. In villages, revenue surveys was conducted in different bases. For example, for the end of 19th century, census operations were held at the interval of every 10 years. In it prepared all the details records of the number of people in all the provinces of India, noting information on caste, religion, and occupation. So they are gathering information about India because they are going to stay here. So it's better to know about India, because if you're going to spend your so much time in India, you must know the traits of India, the problems in India, advantages of their resources. So according to me, India was a very resourceful country, and they saw it. There were traders before in India, they were trading with India, but they came with an idea that we wanted a trade business in which nobody uh, will stop us. So what they thought, that will colonize India and all the resources will be ours and we'll enjoy the perks of getting the wealth out of from India and helping our own country. So what they did was this. All these are official records. These records do not always help us understand what other people in the country felt and what lay behind their actions. To know about these things, we have diaries of people, accounts of pilgrims and travelers, autobiographies of important personalities, etc. All these sources were produced by those who were literate. For these, we will not be able to understand how history was experienced and lived by the tribals and the peasant and worker in the mines or the poor on the street. So these records were only focuses on the type of people who are able to raise their voice in front of Britishers, because they, I think the scenario was basically they were friends with Britishers, so they actually given them the idea of how you can live in this particular country, how you can gather information here. But they were forgetting about that a large population of India used to live in villages and streets, and the tribal peoples were there. So nobody were talked about their lives and what they wanted. They just came and colonized everything, and their sole purpose was not trade only. They wanted to expand their territories as well. So in next chapter, the chapter 2 will talk about the expansion of territories. So thank you so much. I hope you'll love this chapter. Thank you.